All right, welcome back to Keepin the Comics. So we're kicking off here a brand new series called Predator vs. Spider-Man by Ben Percy. And I've got to say, this first issue lays on a pretty solid setup for what I'm hoping turns into an amazing story. Now, this marks here the introduction of the Predator in this series, the Yautja named Skinner. And trust me, that name is not subtle by any means, and you'll understand exactly why he's called that as we go throughout this particular issue. So we start off as expected here in New York, and we see the words that says the summer has claimed the city. The sunlight found every reflective surface and forced everyone to look at the world through a mean squint. Garbage cooked on the street corners. Subway vents gasped out hot, stale air. On sidewalks, on fire escapes, people sweated through their clothes, simmering in their own juices. And then we see this ice cold water sign selling for $4. And I'm like, whoa, that is steep. And the words continue on by saying the heat made the city cruel. And crime spiked with the thermometer. Robberies, assaults, murders. But this was different. This wasn't a bullet to the head or a knife to the gut. This was something new. Most of the time, when there's a killing, it happens fast. This one had some time and care and even artistry put to it. Now, while these words were being said, we see this flash panel, right? And we see these flashes of like this grotesque surgical level skinning with bodies being flailed around with just like this certain type of precision. But in a way, it's not just brutal, it's also artistic. It didn't just kill, they crafted a display. Now, in comes this detective, and while all this horror is going on, she's just calm, unbothered, just eating an ice cube. Wearing a full-on suit too, by the way. Now, her name is Detective LaPearl, and there's this guy here that's in like this hazmat suit, and he's asking the question. He's like, have you ever seen anything like this? And she's like, nope. And he continues to go on. He's like, this building was condemned a year ago. The neighbors say it's been full of junkie squatters ever since. Could it be drug related, a stolen stash, or maybe a neighborhood vigilante wanted to clean up his block? But then she responds, she's like, you're thinking pretty logically. Skinning someone, in my mind, defies logic. And she continues on, she's like, this wasn't a robbery, but something was stolen. Everybody's missing a piece, a jaw, a rib, a finger. And she's just like casually eating these ice cubes while she's saying it. So he asks the question, the guy in the hazmat suit, he's like, so what do you think that this means? And she's like, I wish I knew. This Skinner is some kind of sick-ass trophy hunter. So she kneels down to do some further investigation. And she makes this small little quip about, hey, what were you doing talking to the neighbors anyways? That's my job. But then when she looks back up, homeboy just disappears. And then two other people with hazmat suits come on in. And they were like, hey, sorry, we're late. We were stuck in traffic as usual. And then she's like, hold up. If you just got here, then who have I been talking to this whole time? And that's when we see Spider-Man ditching the hazmat suit. And at the same time, he's making a call to Mr. Jameson. And he lets him know, he's like, I've got something. And Mr. Jameson on the other line, he's pissed. He's like, yo, the last time you promised me something, Parker, it was a bleep neighborhood puppy parade in Queens. And he's like, I don't want good news. I want bad news. I want fear. Fear gets clicks. Clicks get ad revenue. By the way, speaking of clicks, you should click on that like button so that this video could reach a wider audience. Also, you might as well also click the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Hit that notification bell too so that you know when the next videos go live. All right, let's proceed. Did you click? All right, let's move. So Jameson continues like, yo, you think it's hot outside? It's really hot in here. And our feet right now, they are in the fire. And he goes on to mention how the paper barely has any budget anymore. And how Peter, as always, is about to lose his job. So it's good to see that some things never change depending on the universe, right? So Peter's like, all right, well, what about this? How about a mass murder? So Jameson wants to know, he's like, do you have photos? Like you better have photos, right? Of whatever this is that you're talking about. So he tells him that he'll be there in 5 minutes is what Peter does. But then in the middle of him saying that, he sees this robbery happening. And this group of I think it's like 4 people here that jump into this van and they speed off. So Peter tries to go after them. But then in the middle of that, he sees these kids that are playing in the street because there's a fire hydrant that just broke. And listen, it's hot as hell. A fire hydrant broke. I'm a kid. I'm gonna go play in some water, right? But here's the thing. That van that was speeding down with those robbers, they're heading straight for them. So now Peter, he has to go save the kids. So he grabs them up, whips them, and thwaps them over on the other side to get them away from danger. And he's like, listen, kids, sorry to interrupt the play date, but y'all gotta keep it safe now, right? But then elsewhere, we get to see that crew, or at least one of the members here of the crew, that was just in that robbery. He jumps out the van and he talks to the other members. He's like, listen, we'll split the cash up quick. Then we each go our separate ways. Nobody talks to nobody for 2 weeks. Understand? But then when he turns around, that crew, woo, they are skinned on the ground. And he's like, yo, what in the world is going on here? So he tries to be all macho. He's like, okay, whoever you are, where the F are you? And he's like, okay, you want to cut of this? Let's work something out. But before homeboy could even think, here comes the Skinner. Peels off his entire face, like, my goodness. And you can see the shock on his face and then also the death coming to his door at the same time as he drops, collapses. And then we see the skin that he just peeled off from the Predator's view. And then in that moment, he decides to put the skin on his face. But then we shift back over to Peter and he tells the kids bye. And he's like, listen, don't get run over by robbers, grumpy taxi drivers, or delivery bikes weighed down with warm salads and leaky burritos. And then he tries to go back over to the baddies. And then when he lands on the inside, he sees the horror that happened. And in the same time though, Mr. Jameson's calling him on the phone. He's like, Parker, I thought you said that you'd be here already. But then Peter lets him know, he's like, Mr. Jameson, what I saw earlier, it wasn't an isolated incident. We're dealing with a serial killer. As we look at all the other bodies that this predator just skinned up and all the pieces of the body that he's cut off, I'm telling you, this thing is gory already. And then next here, they set the scene a little bit more, or at least continue on the scene a little bit that's going on here in New York. They mentioned how the heat was like a living thing, a predator that you had to fight to survive. Every AC unit in the city was cranked to the limit. Every fan blasted on high. The grid could only take so much. And then we pick up later on here on Jameson talking to Peter. As he mentions, he's like, the article isn't terrible, Parker, but it needs more dirty panic. Kind of like, as he says, you could be next, a tone of warning. But then Peter, he's like, I disagree. The only reason why I feel okay with running this is because I don't want it to happen to anyone else. We want people to be careful and vigilant, not scared. But then in that moment, there's a click, which is followed by a power outage. And next we see this train. And on that train, we see MJ. As she mumbles these words, don't turn the light on. And then in that moment, that's when we hear the click again. And we see that, of course, simultaneously here, the power outage had hit at this location as well. And now the lights are all off on the train. And she's like, seriously? And everybody on the train is trying to figure out, I'm like, hey, do you think this is gonna start up again? Well, another's like, no, we're gonna be trapped down here forever. While MJ's like, let's just stay calm, everybody. While this girl's over here freaking the heck out. So MJ goes over to her and she learns that she's claustrophobic and that the heat, the dark, all of it is basically just too much. So MJ, being MJ, she's like, it feels tight in here, I know, but look at all the space on the outside. But you see, that was the problem, because what's on the outside, that ain't good. Because then we switch visions, not from what we see, but now to what the Outja sees. And as MJ and as a girl look on the outside, what they see next is the hands of the Skinner on their window. And if that girl wasn't scared before, she's definitely freaked the heck out now. So then back on the inside here with Jameson and Peter, Jameson's like, okay, I'm assuming that you got some juice here on your phone or your laptop. Let's figure some stuff out. But Peter's letting him know, he's like, yo, I don't have any coverage. Like the towers are all down. And Con Ed is saying that it could be days before they get everybody powered up again, which I'm trying to figure out. I'm like, if he doesn't have any coverage, how was he able to see that on his phone? But I probably missed something here in translation, so let's just move on. So Jameson's like, yeah, what are we supposed to do then? Sit here with our thumbs up our behinds? So then Peter says, let's fire up the Genny, which I'm assuming he meant the generator, because then when we go over to this next moment, we see him here saying the network is down. So we go analog. We can sell papers, actual papers. And that's when we see here the headliner that says the Daily Bugle. Who is the Skinner? And he mentions, he's like, we hand sell them on street corners, old school. Nobody will have anything to stream or swipe or click. So we help the paper with a big boost of readers. But more importantly, we help protect the city. So then we shift over here to the scene where we're seeing taxis, everyone in the streets here, and people on the sidewalk saying, get your papers, get your papers. And the mentions here are over the next few hours, it grew as hot inside as outside. and people did what they could to stay cool, as well as pass the time. They wouldn't have known they were being hunted if not for Peter. You can see people are coming in drones. They're interested in what news is being spread. And they're selling for about $10 a paper here. And there's a moment right here where Jameson is like, your loved ones may die before the night is out. And while he holds up the paper and continues to say, unless you read the Daily Bugle, read about the Skinner, we see someone that comes in and snatches that paper out of his hands. And who is it? Detective LaPearl. And Jonah's like, yo, hold on. This isn't a library. Give me 20 bucks. So she reads out loud. She's like, photo credit, Peter Parker. So then she asks a question. She's like, there's now a law against disseminating photos of a crime scene without the permission of the victims or police. So Jameson's like, F off. I'm protected by the 4th estate. So then she pulls out her badge and she's like, you want to try me? I want to bring in Parker for questioning now, or I'll arrest you. Where is he? While Spider-Man's like, my name is Bennett and I ain't in it. And he just hops off. But then he goes over here to his apartment to where him and MJ are staying. And he calls out for MJ because he wants to let her know. He's like, I think I've got a long night ahead of me, but I just wanted to check in and to see how your audition went. But when he calls for her, there's no MJ. But then when we pan over back to the train, what we see is the book that MJ was reading, with a pool of blood right next to it and a hand right next to that. Now we all know this is a smokescreen. Ain't nothing happened to MJ, right? But then we jump back to the streets. This is where we see another gentleman here that is selling one of the Daily Bugle papers. But while he's doing that, there were these 2 gentlemen right here who were scheming. And they were asking themselves a question. They're like, I wonder how much cash he's got. So as he's trying to sell his papers and he's like, there's a predator on the loose, they come up behind him. Both of them pull out their guns. While one says, how about let's unload those pockets, man? But then in that moment, we see this arrow that goes through one of the robber's hands. And when he turns to look, he's like, yo, the F is that? Well, the other one's like, smoke him. But before he could do anything, he gets an arrow straight to the forehead. And then we hear the voice that says, which lets us know in this moment that it's not Yautja. And it says, you shouldn't be out here. You're not strong enough. This city can be a dangerous place, especially in the dark. But before you run back to your nest, little mouse, and you should run. What was it you were saying about this predator? Now, like I said, this was a great setup here in my personal opinion. I'm intrigued. I want to see what happens next here. What did you feel here about this particular issue? Leave it down below in the comments. Also, I want to mention here as well, at Keepin' It Comic here, we would love your support. We recently started a Patreon, and the link is going to be down below here in the description. That's one way that you can support the channel, through our membership program. We have our lowest tier here, which is just $1 a month. And then we have additional tiers that offer some additional perks as well. One, like being able to select what videos we cover next, what comics we cover overall, special access to our Discord, and then also discounts here on our future merch, which we also have a link to our merch down below as well. Leave a like here on this video if you haven't done so already so that this video can reach a wider audience. Also subscribe if you're brand new to the channel. Hit a notification bell so that you know when the videos do go live. And as always, we appreciate you and thank you so much for kicking it with Keepin' It Comic. Bye.